That worthless piece of garbage deserves to lose everything. The text message hit my phone at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. My name is Daniel Grayson. I'm 38 years old, been a school counselor at Jefferson Middle School in Kansas City, Missouri for 12 years. Been married to Elise for 9 of those years. Used to think we had something solid. The message wasn't meant for me. It came through because we shared a cloud account, something I'd set up years back for convenience. She was texting her sister Lauren about me, about our marriage, about what she planned to do to me. I sat in my home office staring at the screen. Elise was upstairs, probably asleep, or pretending to be. These days I couldn't tell the difference. He's such a weak man. The next message read, "The judge will believe anything I say." I didn't storm upstairs, didn't wake her up demanding answers, just sat there in the dark, listening to the house settle around me. The same house I'd been paying the mortgage on for 7 years. The same house where I'd painted every room, fixed every broken pipe, replaced every worn-out appliance. Something had been eating at me for months. Little things. The way she'd grown distant. How she'd started working late 3 nights a week. Always at her marketing firm. Always with deadlines that couldn't wait. How she'd stopped asking about my day. Stopped laughing at anything I said. Stopped touching me unless she absolutely had to. I'd tried talking to her about it. "We need to work on us," I'd said one evening over dinner. She'd looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. "Work on what, Daniel? Everything's fine." Everything wasn't fine. And now I knew why. I scrolled through more messages. They went back weeks. Conversations about divorce lawyers, about asset protection, about how to make me look bad in court, about how easy it would be to claim I was controlling, emotionally abusive, maybe even violent. "He never raises his voice," Elise had written to her sister. "But that's what makes it perfect. I can say he intimidates me with his silence, that he makes me feel threatened even when he's calm." My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I just felt something cold settle in my chest. The woman I'd loved for nearly a decade was planning to destroy me. Not just leave me. Destroy me. I closed the phone and went to bed. Elise was already there, lying on her side, facing away from me. Her breathing was steady, peaceful. I lay down next to her and stared at the ceiling until dawn broke through the bedroom windows. When she woke up the next morning, I made her coffee like always, kissed her goodbye like always, told her to have a good day like always. But something had changed. She just didn't know it yet. I met Elise at a teachers' conference in Springfield 9 years ago. She was there representing her marketing company, trying to land contracts with school districts. Smart, beautiful, ambitious. We talked for 3 hours that first night, sitting in the hotel bar until they closed it down. She was nothing like the other women I'd dated. Where they were quiet and predictable, she was bold. Where they were content with small-town life, she wanted more. She made me feel like I could be more too. We married 2 years later. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. I thought I was the luckiest man alive. The early years were good. She helped me see possibilities I'd never considered, encouraged me to apply for the head counselor position at Jefferson, pushed me to finish my master's degree. I supported her career moves too. When Nexora Labs offered her a senior marketing position, I celebrated with her. When she wanted to renovate the kitchen, I learned how to install cabinets myself to save money for better appliances. But somewhere along the way, my support stopped being enough. The promotions I got weren't impressive enough. The money I made wasn't substantial enough. The life we'd built together wasn't exciting enough. "You're comfortable being mediocre," she'd said during one of our last real conversations 6 months ago. "That's your problem, Daniel. You don't want anything badly enough to fight for it." I'd tried to explain that I was content, that helping kids navigate their problems, making a difference in their lives, that mattered to me, that coming home to her each night, building something stable together, that was what I wanted to fight for. She just looked at me with something close to disgust. "You sound like an old man, Daniel. We're not even 40 yet." The warning signs had been there for months. Phone calls that ended when I walked into the room. Weekend trips to visit her sister that I somehow wasn't invited to. New clothes, new perfume, new attitude. I need space to figure things out, she'd told me in February. We'd been sitting at the kitchen table after dinner. Maybe we should consider a trial separation. I'd asked her to try counseling first. She'd agreed, but only showed up to 2 sessions, spent both of them explaining why our problems were fundamentally my fault, how I didn't understand her needs, how I never listened, how I made her feel trapped. The counselor, Patricia Hoffman, had looked at me after Elise stormed out of the second session. Sometimes, she'd said carefully, one person decides they're done long before they tell their partner. Now, reading those text messages, I understood what Patricia meant. Elise hadn't been trying to fix our marriage. She'd been building a case against it. Against me. And I'd given her 9 years of ammunition without even knowing I was loading the gun. I spent the next 3 days reading every message in that thread. Dozens of them, going back 2 months. Elise and her sister had planned everything. The divorce lawyer she'd already consulted. The financial advisor who'd helped her move money into accounts I didn't know about. The domestic violence counselor she'd spoken with to understand her options. Even the friend who'd agreed to testify that she'd seen bruises on Elise's arms. Bruises that never existed. The key is to make him look controlling without being obvious about it, she'd written. Like how he always insists on handling the bills. How he gets quiet when I want to go out with friends. How he never wants me to work late or travel for business. Everything I'd done out of love or responsibility, she was twisting into evidence of abuse. Taking care of our finances because I was better with numbers became financial control. Being disappointed when she canceled our plans became emotional manipulation. Wanting to spend time together became possessive behavior. The worst part was reading how confident she was, how certain that no one would question her story. Daniel's reputation will work in my favor, she'd told Lauren. Everyone thinks he's this gentle, caring guy, so when I say he's been psychologically abusing me in private, it'll be shocking. People love a good scandal, especially when it involves someone they thought they knew. She was right about one thing. People did think they knew me. 12 years of working with troubled kids, helping families through crisis, being the calm voice in chaotic situations. I'd built my career on being trustworthy, reliable, safe. She planned to use that against me. I didn't confront her. Didn't print out the messages and wave them in her face. Didn't call her sister and tell her what I thought of their plan. Instead, I did something I'd never done before in my life. I got strategic. Friday evening, I drove to 3 different electronics stores in Kansas City. Paid cash for a security system. Nothing fancy, nothing hidden. Just cameras for the common areas of our house. Living room, kitchen, hallway, my home office. Missouri's one-party consent law meant I could record conversations in my own home without telling anyone else. I installed them over the weekend while Elise was at her sister's place. Told her when she got back that I'd been thinking about our security after some break-ins in the neighborhood. She barely looked up from her phone. "Whatever makes you feel better, Daniel," she'd said. If she'd paid attention, she might have noticed I seemed different. Calmer somehow. More focused. For the first time in months, I wasn't walking around wondering what was wrong with our marriage. I knew exactly what was wrong with it. And now I was going to prove it. The cameras started recording Monday morning. By Wednesday, I had everything I needed. But I kept them running for 3 more weeks just to be thorough. Some fights are worth having. This one was worth winning. The footage was better than I'd hoped for, worse than I'd feared. Elise spent Tuesday afternoon in our living room practicing her story. Actually practicing it, like lines for a play. Standing in front of the mirror above our fireplace, arranging her face into different expressions of fear and sadness. "He never hit me," she said to her reflection. But the way he looked at me when he was angry, it was terrifying. She tried the line 3 different ways, adjusting her voice each time. Sometimes I felt like he wanted to hurt me but was holding himself back. She rehearsed for over an hour, talked about how I controlled what she wore, where she went, who she talked to. None of it was true. I'd never told her what to wear, never questioned her friendships. The only time I'd ever asked about her whereabouts was when she didn't come home until 2 a.m. and I'd been worried. But listening to her practice these lies, she almost had me convinced. The tremor in her voice when she described feeling unsafe in my own home. The way she paused and looked away when she talked about my unpredictable moods. She was good at this. Really good. Thursday, she had Lauren over for what the cameras caught as a strategy session. They sat at my kitchen table, the one I'd refinished myself 2 summers ago, and went over her story piece by piece. You need to be more specific about the financial abuse, Lauren said. Saying he controls the money isn't enough, you need examples. Okay, Elise replied. What if I say he won't let me have my own credit cards, that he makes me ask permission for purchases over $50? I had all the credit card statements in my office. Elise had charged $8,000 in the past 3 months alone, most of it on clothes and dinners I knew nothing about. Perfect. Lauren nodded. What about emotional stuff? The counselor said judges respond to that. I can say he gives me the silent treatment when I disagree with him, that he makes me feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Oh, and the thing about him monitoring my phone. I'd never looked at her phone. Never asked to. The only reason I'd seen those text messages was because of the shared cloud account she'd forgotten about. This is going to work, Lauren said, reaching across to squeeze Elise's hand. By the time you're done, he won't know what hit him. They laughed about it. Actually laughed. Sitting in the kitchen where I'd made her breakfast every morning for 7 years, planning how to destroy my reputation and my life. The worst part came Friday night. Elise was on the phone with someone, a man I didn't recognize from the voice. She was in the living room pacing back and forth in front of the couch we'd picked out together. No, he doesn't suspect anything, she was saying. He's too trusting, too, naive. He actually thinks we can work things out. The man said something I couldn't quite catch. Trust me, after this divorce, I'll have enough to start over wherever I want, and he'll be so damaged professionally, he'll be lucky to keep his job. Who's going to trust a school counselor who abuses his wife? My hands clenched into fists as I watched the footage later that night. She wasn't just planning to leave me, she was planning to make sure I lost everything. My reputation, my career, my ability to help the kids who depended on me. I know exactly what buttons to push, she continued. I've been watching him for years. He thinks his calm, reasonable act makes him look good, but I can spin it. Make it look controlling, cold, manipulative. After she hung up, she stood in front of the mirror again. This time, she practiced crying, actually practiced it, working up tears and then checking her reflection to see how it looked. I turned off the monitor and sat in my office for an hour, staring at the wall. 9 years of marriage. 9 years of believing I knew the woman I'd shared my life with. I'd been living with a stranger who was planning to destroy me for sport. The breakthrough came on a Monday morning in March. Elise thought I'd left for work, but I'd forgotten my lesson plans and doubled back. The cameras caught her on the phone with someone new, a woman this time. Attorney Williams' office, the voice was saying. I've reviewed your initial consultation notes and I think we have a strong case for spousal support and asset division. Elise was sitting at our kitchen counter, a legal pad spread out in front of her. What about the emotional distress claim? I've been documenting everything like you suggested. Excellent. Now you mentioned there were no witnesses to the alleged abuse. That could be a challenge, but if you have medical records. I don't have any, Elise said quickly. He was too smart for that. Never left marks. It was all psychological. The attorney was quiet for a moment. In that case, we'll need to rely heavily on your testimony and any supporting evidence of controlling behavior. Text messages, emails, financial records showing restricted access. I watched Elise nod eagerly. I can get all of that, and my sister will testify she's seen how he treats me. Good. Now, there's something else we need to discuss. Missouri is a no-fault divorce state, but if we can prove domestic abuse, we can significantly increase your spousal support award. The judge will want to see a pattern of behavior. How do I prove a pattern? Elise asked. Document everything from here forward. Keep a journal of incidents. Record dates, times, specific behaviors. If he ever raises his voice, write it down. If he questions where you've been, document it. Even normal disagreements can be framed as intimidation if presented correctly. My stomach turned as I watched my wife nod along to instructions on how to fabricate evidence against me. She was taking notes, writing down phrases like felt threatened and afraid to disagree. One more thing, the attorney continued. You'll want to establish a pattern of isolation. Can you show that he discouraged your friendships or career advancement? Actually, yes, Elise said, her voice brightening. He always seemed uncomfortable when I worked late or traveled for business. I can say he made me choose between my career and keeping peace at home. That was a lie. I'd supported every promotion, every business trip, every late night she said she needed for work. I'd been proud of her success, even when it meant eating dinner alone or spending weekends by myself. Perfect, the attorney said. With proper documentation and testimony, we should be able to secure substantial monthly support. Given his income and the length of your marriage, you're looking at potentially permanent alimony. After she hung up, Elise sat there for 10 minutes writing in what looked like a journal. When she was done, she called Lauren. It's happening, she said when her sister picked up. The attorney thinks I can get permanent alimony and probably the house too. All I have to do is make him look like a monster. Are you sure you want to go that far? Lauren asked. I mean, Daniel's not actually a bad guy. He's weak, Elise snapped. And weak men deserve what they get. Besides, it's not like I'm sending him to prison. I'm just taking what I deserve for wasting 9 years of my life. She talked for another hour about her plans, about the apartment she'd already picked out downtown, about the business she wanted to start with her divorce settlement, about the man she'd been seeing, a detail that made my chest tighten with something between pain and rage. When I got home that evening, she was making dinner, smiling, acting like the loving wife she'd never actually been. How was your day? She asked, the same question she'd been asking for 9 years. For the first time, I didn't answer honestly. Fine, I said. Just fine. Two could play the acting game. I called in sick Wednesday morning and drove to Jefferson City to meet with Thomas Grant, a divorce attorney I'd found through careful research. He specialized in defending against false abuse allegations, a specialty I'd never imagined I'd need. His office was nothing like the flashy downtown firms, just a small suite in a converted house, file cabinets lining every wall. Grant himself was maybe 60, with graying hair and tired eyes that suggested he'd seen every variety of human betrayal. Mr. Grayson, he said, shaking my hand, tell me what's happening. I laid it out for him. The text messages, the recorded conversations, 3 weeks of footage showing my wife rehearsing lies and coordinating with her sister to commit perjury. Grant watched several clips without saying a word. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and whistled softly. In 30 years of practice, he said, I've never seen anything this comprehensive. Your wife essentially documented her own fraud. Is it enough? I asked. It's more than enough, but we need to be strategic about how we use it. If we reveal everything too early, she'll claim the recordings were altered or taken out of context. We wait until she's committed to her story under oath. He explained the process. Elise would file for divorce and likely request an emergency hearing for temporary support, claiming she was afraid to remain in the house. She'd present her evidence of abuse. Her attorney would paint me as a dangerous man who'd hidden his true nature for years. Then, Grant said, we present the recordings, not as a surprise gotcha moment, but as evidence that directly contradicts her sworn testimony. The judge will see that she's not just lying, she's been planning to lie for months. I signed the retainer agreement that afternoon. Grant would stay in the background until Elise made her move, then we'd respond with everything we had. One more thing, he said as I was leaving. Don't change your behavior at home. Don't give her any reason to think you know what's coming. Act exactly like you always have. That was harder than it sounded. Going through the motions of normal married life while knowing it was all performance. Making conversation over dinner while watching her practice destroying my reputation. Listening to her complain about work stress while she planned to claim I'd caused her emotional trauma. The cameras kept recording. Every day brought new evidence. Elise coaching Lauren on her testimony. Phone calls with her attorney about maximizing her settlement. Conversations with friends where she tested out different versions of her story. The thing about Daniel, she told her friend Jessica over coffee Friday afternoon, is that he's got everyone fooled. People think he's this gentle, caring guy because that's what he shows the world. But at home he's cold, controlling. Sometimes I feel like he's just waiting for me to give him an excuse to really lose it. Jessica looked uncomfortable. I don't know, Elise. I've known Daniel for years. He doesn't seem like... That's exactly what I'm talking about, Elise interrupted. He's got this mask he wears in public. But behind closed doors, it's different. Trust me. Watching that conversation, I realized something that chilled me more than all the rest of it combined. Elise wasn't just planning to lie about me in court. She genuinely seemed to believe her own lies. Somewhere in her mind, she'd convinced herself that I actually was the man she was describing. That night, she came to bed later than usual. I pretended to be asleep as she settled in beside me. Daniel, she whispered. I didn't respond. I know you're awake, she said softly. We need to talk. Tomorrow. My blood turned to ice. After 3 weeks of careful planning, was she finally ready to make her move? She filed the papers on a Thursday morning in April. I was at school when the process server found me, handing over documents that painted me as a psychologically abusive husband who'd isolated and controlled his wife for years. The emergency hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. According to the filing, Elise was requesting temporary custody of all marital assets, exclusive use of our home, and monthly support while she recovered from years of emotional trauma. I called Grant immediately. She took the bait, he said. Now we wait for her to commit to her story under oath. The hearing lasted 4 hours. Elise sat at the plaintiff's table in a conservative blue dress, looking fragile and frightened. Her attorney, Jennifer Walsh, presented a compelling case. 9 years of marriage to a man who appeared supportive in public, but was controlling and emotionally abusive in private. Elise testified for 90 minutes. She talked about how I monitored her spending, discouraged her friendships, and used silent treatment to punish her for asserting independence. She described feeling terrified to disagree with me, claiming I had explosive anger that I carefully hid from others. Lauren testified next, confirming that she'd witnessed my controlling behavior and had seen her sister become a shadow of herself during our marriage. The judge, Honorable Patricia Knox, listened intently. When Walsh finished presenting her case, she looked ready to grant everything Elise had requested. Then Grant stood up. Your Honor, he said calmly, the defendant would like to present evidence that directly contradicts the testimony we've just heard. He connected his laptop to the courtroom's display system and played the first video, Elise practicing her testimony in our living room mirror. The entire courtroom watched as she rehearsed the exact words she'd spoken under oath 30 minutes earlier. Walsh objected frantically. The judge overruled her. Grant played clip after clip. Elise coaching Lauren on perjury. Phone calls with her attorney about fabricating evidence. Conversations where she laughed about destroying my reputation. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of my wife's voice recorded in our home, planning to commit fraud against the court system. When the final video ended, Judge Knox looked at Elise with something between disgust and disbelief. Counselor Walsh, she said slowly, I'm going to ask you one more time if your client wishes to modify her testimony. Elise sat frozen, her face drained of color. Walsh whispered urgently in her ear, but it was too late. The damage was done. Judge Knox dismissed the case with prejudice and awarded me exclusive use of all marital assets pending final divorce proceedings. She also referred the matter to the district attorney for potential perjury charges. Elise stumbled out of the courtroom without looking at me once. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Elise got nothing beyond her personal belongings and her car. No alimony, no property settlement, no spousal support. Her attorney had withdrawn from the case the day after the hearing, leaving her to represent herself. She moved back in with Lauren while looking for work. Word had gotten around about what happened in court. The marketing industry in Kansas City isn't that big, and her reputation for dishonesty made her essentially unemployable. I stayed in our house for another year, then sold it. Too many memories of a life that had never been real. I bought a smaller place closer to school, with a workshop where I could build furniture in the evenings. The kids at Jefferson noticed the change in me. Calmer somehow, more centered. I'd learned something valuable about trust. Not to give it away easily, but not to become cynical either. Some people are worth the risk. Others show you exactly who they are if you pay attention. I ran into Elise once, about 2 years later, at a grocery store downtown. She looked older, tired. We nodded politely but didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. Last month I started dating again. A teacher named Grace who works at the elementary school across town. She's kind, honest, straightforward about what she wants. We take things slow, but there's something real there. Something that feels like foundation instead of performance. Some evenings I sit on my porch and think about those 3 weeks when the cameras were running. How close I came to losing everything to someone else's lies. How important it was to let the truth speak for itself, instead of trying to fight fiction with emotion. The best revenge, I learned, isn't getting even. It's getting free.